welcome to our webinar. I'm Nirith Alva and part of the faculty of Srishti Manipal Institute of Art, Design and Technology in Bangalore. With me are 5 other faculty members who will speak briefly on the subject before us because we want to leave time for questions at the end. In the words of Steve Jobs, design is not just what it looks and feels like, design is how it works. Are you a born designer or can you be trained to become one? Can design education in the right school open doors you never knew existed? To find out and to kick off our session, I'm going to ask design entrepreneur and faculty at SMI, Jacob Matthew, to speak about design and why he's so passionate about it and how it's much, much, much bigger than any of us think. Over to you, Jacob.
The question really is, can anybody become a designer? Is everybody creative? And the answer is an unequivocal yes. But however, there are some requirements, that make people more suited for design. And those I would say are qualities like curiosity. And I think it goes a little beyond curiosity. It's being curious about the world that you're in, about things that happen around you. But this curiosity is also tempered with a sense of what I would call wonderment and grace and gratitude. Because you are part of a larger system, a larger planetary system, a larger consciousness system. And when you're curious about it, you also learn things about it. And it sort of, makes your soul bigger. So curiosity is a quality that we look for. The other is the ability to listen to others, to listen to each other, but also listening, not necessarily to words, but also to feelings, to sensing what is around you. The third and very important quality is that quality of lifelong learning. We are never done. And as designers, we are always in what we call an emergent situation. We discover as we go. So that's what makes design the profession of design so valuable in a sense. I like to give this difference between, let's say, engineering and design. When you are faced with an engineering problem, very often you know what the end solution is. So it is like building a bridge from A to B. And it's really about selecting the right kind of bridge and then designing that. You're always designing to a set of performance specifications. That's what engineering is largely about. When you're a designer, you start from the basics. And very often the question is like, why do you need a bridge? Why do you need to get from A to B? Is there another way of getting to A to B? What if it were a tunnel instead of a bridge? What if instead of using cars, you used an airship? So these are the kind of emergent things that come out. And that's the way designers explore. Design actually looks to the future. It looks at making the future better, not just for ourselves, but for everybody around us as well. Maybe that's one of the things that has gone wrong in the world today. Perhaps people were not applying design sensibilities, but a lot of the things that people have done in terms of solutions that were provided have actually created more problems. So we have issues of climate change, we have pollution and all of that. Now, one thing about design is that it is what we call the practice of optimism. It is the practice of possibilities for the future. And these possibilities are always for a better future. We also look at design as a way of having people fulfill their aspirations. Very often, people do not express their aspirations verbally, but through observation, you can find out. And one addresses that. There's a funny saying about Henry Ford, if he listened to what people wanted, would have given them a faster horse carriage and not a car. Right? So this is what that quality of listening is all about. It's listening beyond what people are saying. Another thing about design is about building better futures, of being in sync, not with just people. We are just one of many inhabitants of this planet. So design is really about what we call refuturing. making a better future for everybody. Now comes the big question. If I study design and if I go through design and I have the qualities of curiosity and wanting to learn and being able to listen and so on, what future does it offer me in terms of careers? I think the world that we are in today is described very nicely as one that is volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. Design, being an emergent profession, is probably the profession that is most suited to dealing with ambiguity and dealing with things that are not yet fully understood. You understand as you go along. So there is demand for design at all levels. There is demand for design at the level of the public, that is government services. There is a need for design at what you'd call the plural sector, the NGOs, the civil society. Of course, private sector and commercial enterprises need design because that's how you do better products, better services, and communicate them better. And lastly, you're designing for the people and the planet. So with that, I'll hand over back to Niret.
Thank you so much, Jacob, for that really brilliant overview. The audience will have questions, but I'm requesting them to keep them for the second half of our session. A new degree program that design colleges are now offering tends to have many parents and students confused. It's called the Bachelor of Vocation. What exactly is that? Isn't that for teachers? Doesn't that give you only a diploma? What value does it have in the real world? What will I do after I get such a degree? To answer those questions, we now have Samir Parker, Associate Dean of the BWalk program at SMI. Samir, over to you.
Thank you, Niret, and good afternoon to all of you who've joined us. Students, parents, really happy to have you all here with us. And thanks to Careers 360 for setting this up. So folks, Jacob set this up really nicely. He said that anyone can be a designer, and that is true. We all engage with acts of design or designing our lives, the world around us, each and every day. From our mothers in our kitchens to the people who are providing us with services. There are the elements of that all around us. And another thing Jacob talked about is curiosity. If you're curious, you will try and engage with the things that excite you, that provoke you, that are there in the world, that give you some kind of spark. Now, the paths to design are many. Srishti has a great legacy of running a 4-year Bachelor of Design program, and that program has reached a maturity now after 25 years. But these paths, like I said, have many alternatives. And 7 years ago, the government of India decided that there can be an option, there should be an option for certain kinds of professional and technical programs to have a more accelerated path to being out there in the creative industries. And the government began and has certified the Bachelor of Vocation program, which is a 3-year design degree that Srishti has been one of the pioneers in the country in setting up and implementing. We began this program in Pune and Trivandrum 7 years ago, and it has been running in Bangalore for 4 years now as well. And we have graduated over 150 students thus far, all of whom who have achieved a high level of competency in their field of design. The Bachelor of Vocation has a number of different programs, and maybe Niret or Amitabh will tell you about the different programs that are there. But what I would like to underline is the fact that it's not just the government, but institutes of higher learning in India and across the world are not just encouraging and recognizing of this program, but very, very appreciative of it. And our students have gained admission into design universities in India and across the world for their higher education from this program. The other aspect of this program that is very critical, and this is something of a new take on design education, is the involvement of industry. Our curriculum is certified by what we call the national level sector skill councils. That is to say, in each of our design disciplines, there's a body that the government recognizes as setting the standards for what a design professional should achieve at every level. And we're proud to say that our program has maintained and continues to build a competency in that area. So the Bachelor of Vocation is relatively new, but it is one of those exciting spaces in Srishti and in the world of accelerated learning, of connection to industry, of opportunity for higher education that all of us here at Srishti are happy to put out into the world. And with that, Niret, I'll hand it back to you to take it further.
Thank you so much, Samir. Beautiful, inspirational overview. To explain how the BVOC program works on the ground at SMI, we now have Associate Dean and Head of Studies BVOC, Amitabh Kumar. Amitabh, please explain to our audience the range of the range of degrees and the way learning proceeds at SMI. Over to you, Amitabh.
Thank you so much, Niret. Very good afternoon to everyone here. Thank you so much for coming and spending your Saturday afternoon with us. So let me first start by busting an FAQ. Parents often ask us about placement. Parents often ask us about what happens to our child after they graduate from a BVOC degree. Just to start on a firmer footing, ours is more like a post-placement program, if you would like to call it. Like Samir mentioned earlier, it's an industry-focused, industry-led program where we have industry in the classroom and the classroom in the industry. As a result of which, our students start engaging hands-on with the industry from the very first year onwards through the industry exposure program. In the second year, they work for 12 weeks within an industrial context of their choice as part of the apprenticeship program. And in the third year, they spend 16 weeks working with an industry partner as part of their wonderful capstone program. With this triple filtered exposure to industry, not only are our students industry aware, industry ready, but also industry desired. And that sort of really gives you a clear introduction of what the Bachelor of Vocation program is all about. Another important communication would be that the mother disciplines that inform the B.Des program continue taking shape in the BVOC program. So for example, if you have visual communication and strategic branding in the 4-year program, the graphic arts and design practices is an offering by VCSB, as we call it, as part of the vocational program. So every aspect of BVOC is a core Srishti proposition with the same value-based education proposition, however, made more compact, more accelerated, and more industry aware for you and or your child, if you're a parent listening to this. We have 7 incredible programs that make what BVOC is. We have creative coding, we have user interface and interaction engineering, we have interior design and build, we have creative manufacturing, both product and textile, we have digital filmmaking, we have digital media production, gaming, VFX and animation, we have graphic arts and design practices, which is my mothership essentially, which has illustration and graphic design. And like I mentioned earlier, all these 7 are from core disciplines that is a Srishti undergraduate proposition. The only difference really is, if you're asking yourself, should I take BVOC or should I take B.Des? It depends, it's based on the kind of learner that you are. How do you like to learn? How focused and how clear are you about your own future? Are you clear that you'd like to be part of the graphic arts industry? Are you clear that you would want to be an illustrator in the graphic arts industry? I think these are key components through which you can navigate through the massive Srishti universe. Another key component of the BVOC program is work-based learning. A lot of the projects, a lot of the studios that we run within our curriculum, like Sameer had mentioned earlier, are industry vetted. We take our entire curriculum to industry experts and industry leaders, and we ask them, is this aligned to the nature of workforce that is required by your specific sector? And we take their advice on board and we adapt. Adaptability becomes a key component, more so after the we shouldn't say post, but because the pandemic continues, but more so as a response to the pandemic. As many of you know, or will soon find out, the pandemic has had a seismic effect in the way that our lives, our industrial landscape have completely transformed. Given that, the requirement for creative professionals within the industry landscape has also transformed. The way we teach has also transformed. And I mean, there is no better example than my colleague Sameer and the wonderful way he ran a material and tools making intensive interior design build program as an online session and as an online classroom. Another key component of the way we look at the BVOC program is really to expand the idea of skill. Skill, as understood by a large population, is limited to technical skill. How can you make something? How do you know how to do something? Do you know your software? Do you know your modes of operation? Of course, we focus on that. But our take on skill is much wider than that. There are professional skills, there are life skills, there are knowledge-based skills. And it is with this really holistic idea of skill and upskilling that we train our BVOC students that are ready to take on the world and the industry. Niret, is there anything I've left out? Something you think I didn't plug in?
As always, Amitabh, perfect. Wonderful.
Thank you so much. Great. So over to you and the rest of the amazing Srishti journey.
Yeah. Thank you, Amitabh. To all those who are listening, the Bachelor of Vocation is a 3-year program. SMI also has a slew of 4-year degree courses across a range of specializations. Here's filmmaker Swati Dandekar and Dean Media Arts and Sciences at SMI to give you a sneak peek into these amazing courses and to explain how the 4-year degree is different to the 3-year one and the doors these courses open. Over to you, Swati.
Thank you, Niret. And hello and welcome everyone who's joined us this afternoon. People often ask us, this is a question that comes very often just before admissions. What is the difference between the 3-year BVOC and the 4-year professional program? There can be many answers to this, but I usually start with something quite simple. And that is that both these programs cater to different kinds of learners. Yeah. So if you're very sure of what you want to do, then the BVOC, as you've just heard about it, is a very good program for you. We also have, for instance, if I were to give you the example of film, if you're very sure that you want to study film and that within film you perhaps want to specialize in camera or editing, then BVOC is the place for you. The 4-year program is a little more open and exploratory, and it allows students to sort of find themselves and find their voice and find who they are. And sometimes some learners need that little extra time to do so. It is an excellent combination of conceptual and technical skills. We offer 2 kinds of degrees here. The BFA, the Bachelor of Fine Arts, which has film, animation, contemporary arts, and creative writing. And we have the Bachelor of Design, which has many degrees. Let me list them for you. I don't know if you can remember all of them. There's the Business Systems Service Design. There is Human-Centered Design. There is the Industrial Arts and Design Practices. There is the Information Arts and Information Design Practices. There is Creative and Applied Computation. There is Creative Education. There is Public Space Design. And of course, there is our ultra-popular Visual Communication and Strategic Branding. So the USP of our 4-year program, I would say, is that one is that it continually redefines the discipline itself. Yeah. And it locates itself in this very vibrant and robust interdisciplinary environment of Srishti. Interdisciplinarity, as I always say, is not just a box to be ticked in Srishti. Long before the new education policy came, which now exhorts educational institutions across India to introduce interdisciplinarity in their curriculum, at Srishti and now in Srishti Manipal, we have been doing this. Students can choose what they wish to study, and it's not an exaggeration to say that literally every student charts her or his own path and therefore his or her own timetable across the 4 years. To give you an example, again from film, if you are a film student at Srishti, you would take units from animation or contemporary art or creative writing, but you would also take units from information design, public space design, creative, literally the entire gamut of courses that are on offer. And what this does is that not only does this crisscrossing of students across these degrees enriches their own education, it also enriches the program, because this sort of cross-pollination adds to what the program is and can be. Along with this, there is a generous addition of what we call liberal studies, which establish the context for the art and design practice. Because after all, art and design practice does not function in a vacuum. It functions in the larger social, cultural, and political environment in which we live. And it is as important to engage with this context as it is to pick up art and design skills. Also, I find now in the world of work, this sort of mixed bag of skills is often appreciated. So if, as you were to, as a visual communication graduate, join an ad agency, it is a huge value that you're also able to record a bit of sound, that you're able to put photographs together on a time-based narrative. Yeah. Or if you join, say, as a film trainee, it's a huge advantage that you can design a poster. So this is just one of many, many examples that I can give that makes a strong case for this, what we call a little more broad-based. After all, this is undergrad education. Yeah. So that's it. Have I left out anything, Niret?
That was absolutely wonderful. Thank you, Swati. Great overview and great the differences between VWalk and B.Des you brought out. I now turn to Mahesh Bhatt. He's a brilliant photographer, filmmaker, and also part of the faculty at SMI, to talk about, who knows, parents on this may be interested in some of our postgraduate courses. There's a wide variety of them, a whole slew of them, and some of them lead into a PhD also. So Mahesh, can you give us an overview, please, of the postgraduate education that is also offered at SMI?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Niret. Can you guys hear me well? Yeah. Okay. So we have several postgraduate programs at Srishti. The list is long, and there are, I think, two main kinds of programs, if you will. One is the M.A., the Master of Arts. The other one is the M.Des, the Master of Design. Then you also have a Master of Fine Arts, MFA, and an M.Plan, Master of Planning. So and the MA has several courses: animation, documentary film, curatorial practice, and entrepreneurship for impact, environment and society, to name a few. Our website has more information. I would urge people to go and take a look at it. The admission to MA program, MA is kind of more of research oriented. Swati could correct me if I'm wrong. That's right. And I think the admission criteria is that people with the 3-year degree that is a BA or a BCom or a BSc or any other 3-year degree can come in, get into it. M.Des on the other, or MFA or M.Plan needs a 4-year degree, a qualification of a 4-year undergraduate degree. M.Des too has several different kinds of programs, that is information arts and information design practices, human-centered design. I forgot MA in visual communication, an important one. Then we have film, also documentary film in MA. And then we have human-centered design. Then you have industrial arts and design practices, to name a few, in the M.Des stream of it. That's Master of Design stream of it. People who want to get into, who only have a three-year undergraduate degree and they would like to get into an M.Des or an MFA program, can do a 1-year postgraduate diploma, which we offer, and they can then go into an M.Des program at Srishti or anywhere else in the world. We also offer, I think it's from this year onwards or last year, an integrated PhD program, which means that one can get an MA, and then after your undergraduate degree, you can apply for an integrated PhD, which is a 5-year program where you get your postgraduate degree and then go on to do PhD. Then we, of course, we have the PhD program that has been running successfully for the last several years. Srishti also has its doors open for people who do not have background, an undergraduate degree in arts, like people who have done BTech. We have several students who have done their degrees in engineering, undergraduate degrees in engineering, who found that art and design is their calling, and they have come at Srishti and have successfully completed their masters and gone on to pursue a career in art or design. So in a nutshell, that's what it is. Swati, if I have left out something, please feel free to add.
Well, no, just that there are 2 kinds of postgraduate diploma programs that we offer. It's a year-long program, and it has 2. One is called the Bridge, which, like Mahesh explained, allows you to transition from a 3-year degree to an M.Des program, which requires 4 years of undergrad education. And the other is a Finish, which is sort of equivalent to the first year of MA. And if you are if you have been trained, or if you've been working in any field of art and design but would like to develop your practice, then this 1-year PGDP Finish is for such students.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Mahesh and Swati. I now go back to Jacob, whom we started with, to tell us about the SMI ecosystem, the huge new campus, the facilities, what it is about SMI that we do uniquely that is different to another place, our foundation courses, our wellness teams, and pretty much what makes us unique. Jacob, over to you to pull the last speaker before we open for questions.
Yeah. So let me start with something that we are all very excited about. So far, we've been working out of a number of buildings, all within walking distance of each other, but they're separate buildings. By the end of this year, we'll be moving into a new campus. This new campus will be almost 4 times larger than what we've been in so far. So it's almost 500,000 square feet of space. And what you might find very interesting is that we've requested our builders to hold on the finishing of 20% of the building, because we want that 20% to be designed and built to your specifications. So all the students who come in this year and who are current students, when we move into the new campus, will have the opportunity to not just use the facility, but to shape the facility. This is, what shall I say, once in the lifetime of an institution opportunity. So anyway, that's that. The new campus will also have student housing. We will have hostels on it, though when you join us, you'll still be following our old system. where we have a number of PG accommodations with people, with trusted people who've been running hostels for us, private hostels for us, with men's accommodation and women's accommodation separately. But when we move into the new campus, we will have buildings on the hostel buildings on the campus itself. I now want to just move to the wellness program that Niret just spoke about. Wellness and well-being is very critical, and it's something that has to go side by side with education. The other interesting thing about art and design education is that it doesn't exclude people that a lot of the other education systems exclude. People with dyslexia and other challenges actually blossom when it comes to art and design. I was just listening to Sir Richard Branson, who is a prominent British businessman. The Virgin brand is his. And I was listening to a talk of his just recently, where he was saying that actually people who have conditions such as dyslexia actually have an advantage over the so-called normal people, because they are forced to explore other ways of expressing themselves and other avenues. So he looked at it as really as an advantage. Our wellness team does that too. So we are very inclusive in the nature of students that we accept, and then we scaffold them with extra support. We also have a tutor system where every student in the institute is assigned to a tutor. That tutor may not be from their discipline, but that tutor is like a life coach who's with the student during their entire time at Srishti, and is able to sort of see the growth of the student across the years, across programs. We have a very active exchange program. We've got MOUs, and every year scores of our students go abroad to our partner universities, largely in Europe, but also in Australia, South America, the US and Canada, UK too. And we have students who come in from there as well. Plus, we have a lot of connections with universities in India. We recently just finished something called Interlude, a 4-week program in Srishti, multidisciplinary, what Swati was talking about, not just ticking the boxes, but we had 18 universities from across India work together with our students on common projects. We have a lot of co-curricular activities, everything from sports, martial arts, music, dance, performance, all of which we believe are important for development of the student. Students who do the B.Des program, the 4-year program, go through 1 year of what is called a foundation program. I like to call it the unlearning program, because the conventional education system, which is sort of geared towards scoring high marks in examinations and then scoring high grades in entrance examinations so that you can get into a professional stream, actually does a lot of damage in terms of curbing your creativity and curbing your individual identity. So that 1 year of foundation actually frees you from a lot of these prior conditionings, as it were. It also allows you to perceive in new ways. I think lastly, I would say that across the different programs that we have occasions during every semester where you join groups of students with practicing professionals and faculty and work on projects together for 4 to 5 weeks at a time across disciplines. And this is extremely rewarding. Back to you, Niret. I think we're now good for questions.
Thank you, Jacob, for pulling that whole thing together so well. Over to you, Careers 360. Thank you so much for hosting this seminar and to open the floor to questions.
Well, actually, we have a very, very evolved and a very exciting admission procedure called the Srishti Manipal entrance test. And within that, not only do we make a lot of parameters held dear by mainstream education quite redundant, we also have found a unique way of taking the portfolio out of the equation. So you just need to be present and you need to be yourself, really. We have a evaluation system that evaluates you and what unlimited potential you hold within yourself in terms of your chosen path of vocation. So yeah, you don't really, I mean, if you should know maths, of course. This is not an anti-maths or an anti-schooling session. Please don't get us wrong. But for the provisions of joining us in Srishti, we are really interested in the constant capacity that you hold within yourself. So yes. Does that answer that in some way, Nirat? Do you need maths?
Yes.
Actually, if I could just ask a question to the parents in this, in this group, how often have you used your high school maths in life? Yeah, and you do the basic math you use every day in your life, but the more complicated maths, whether it's quadratic equations, whether it's calculus, whether it's statistics, whether it's trigonometry. Many of us have never used it after we left school. But having said that, if you're doing creative coding, for example, you need to know about algorithms, you need to know about how equations are done, and so on. If you're doing public space design, a knowledge of trigonometry is useful, but even if you don't know it, you learn it while you do that program, right? So it is really application based, but the basics, of course, you need to know.
It's always tricky. Let me put it this way. It's not easy when you don't know enough about what all these different sounding, sometimes, confusing terms they can be, and it's difficult. I would say two things. One is that, that you must sort of look a little bit within and not always just go by what is the most popular and what is the flow and what everybody else seems to be doing. I feel there's something you can ask yourself, what is it that I would like to do? That is one way of looking at it. Secondly, if you were to come to the 4-year program, I will say this, that since it allows for so much navigation, we often have students who've chosen one specialization, and then they find that they are actually interested in something else. And it is possible within the design of the program to take units from that other thing. So we do have students who come in to IADP, for instance, who are then taking units in animation, or we have students who come into creative writing who sometimes want to take units in interaction design. So it is, it's not something that it's not something that seals your fate. You should not look at this choice making as something that seals your fate forever.
Yeah, just to
Jacob,
build on what Swati was saying, and in conjunction to the previous question as well, there is something that there is something you will not find in our website, but is a very important Srishti value. And Srishti is at the core of it. The proposition is of value-based education. When you make something, when you make a film, when you make a drawing, when you make a poster, or when you make something, that something also makes you. So if you are just to go back to the previous question, you select on the basis of what speaks to you. You select on the basis of what informs you, what makes you in that sense. And if you do not know what that is, then like Swati said, the 4-year program is ideal in that way, because it allows you to navigate, to feel, to sense, and to not arrive at a decision in a very rushed manner. At the same time, just wanted to demystify this point of arrival. At no point do you arrive. If you think that after 3 years of filmmaking or graphic design, you are a graphic designer or a filmmaker, that is not the case. At Srishti, we also believe in being a lifelong learner. I am still learning.
Yes.
as is, I'm sure, Swati, as is, I'm sure, Sameer, we are a community of learners. And that is one of the most beautiful things about our ethos, because it is okay to not know. It is fine. And we will find out together, collectively. So please don't be under a pressure, and don't come with a misconception that a magic potion will be given to you after which you know. There are no magic potions in the real world, you see. So come in with an open mind and an open heart and join us in our journey of learning, would be my suggestion. We had to introduce, so as part of a post-pandemic response in terms of our curriculum, we realized that even for a graphic design position, the calls or the requirements as expressed by many industry corporations required you to have an understanding of 3D modeling, cinema 4D, motion graphics, up over and above your core graphic design skills. 3D modeling demand is going to skyrocket once 5G comes in, because as you all know, you cannot stream 3D yet. But a lot of investment has already been made in future technologies such as augmented reality, virtual reality, hologram making, and these are future medias, So the demand for 3D modeling currently is both soft and hard. In terms of 3D printing is now a very accessible aspect. We have 3D printers in Srishti as well. But over and above that, simulating digital in environments or even avatar-based navigations of digital platforms are, especially after the pandemic, are quite the norm, you see. So 3D modeling, 3D animation are a demand not just in the digital media arts or the digital media practice space, but also in spaces such as illustration and graphic design. So yeah.
And to add to that, if Sagar's question was more towards the interior design, furniture, product, architecture fields, it is extremely valuable as a skill and a tool. And what we work with in our interior and creative manufacturing programs is not just a high level of competency with 3D modeling, but how that actually plugs into a larger design team and your ability to take instructions, feedback, and be able to visualize and realize what others might be intending, as well as your own ideas.
I think the whole space of defense is also changing. So at one level, you have the hardware design, but I would make a difference. Does design teach you to go into combat? I think it will do exactly the opposite. It will make you run in the other direction. Sorry, just joking. But when it comes to preparedness for making defenses prepared, everything from designing uniforms, for example, or gear, lightweight, armor. I do know that there are several experiments going on right now with the Defense Department and people from the design community on camouflage, what do you call it? That invisibility cloak kind of thing from Harry Potter, that kind of stuff, to intelligent fabric that can, by switching currents in it, it can either become hot weather gear and cools you down, or it becomes cold weather gear and warms you up. From that to, a lot of work in defense substitution and so on. I've personally worked on some parts of the, working with a team that developed the ALH, the helicopter that's now been inducted in the, both in the Air Force, Navy, and the Army. Everything from, we were developing both passenger versions and combat versions of that helicopter. So there is a lot of opportunity, and that is increasing right now with the Make in India move, where there's a lot of indigenization of gear, especially for the defense forces. And a lot of these have huge civilian applications as well, for things like disaster relief, I mean, if you can make quickly deployable tents, for example, or shelters, these have parallel very important function even in civilian situations like disaster relief and so on. So it's a wide open field. It's going to grow a lot in the next few years. So scope-wise, I think it's huge. We also have an element of what we do. I don't know whether sooner or later, I think there will be our colleagues going to places like Wellington, doing the service systems design piece with the armed forces. So there is a lot of work that can be done in defense.
Yeah, and also just quickly to add, it was believed when Russia invaded Ukraine that, Ukraine would fall literally in a few days. What has happened on the ground in that war in Europe is pretty much incredible design solutions of the defending army, right? The way they've used the internet, the way it is pretty much an asymmetric response to a much bigger army, and they're holding out against them. Again, in a very simplistic way, through amazing design solutions, right? That they are actually aggregating on the ground as the days are passing.
Well, lots of things. You can study our students. There is a significant percentage of our students who actually go abroad for higher studies. And they do a range of different things. And as I said earlier, that you sometimes might be a graduate, undergrad, your degree might be in one thing, but you might sort of choose something else for your postgrad, which is sort of kind of allied, but a little bit of a tangent. And isn't that how it is with all of education today? If you look at the undergrad engineering degrees, you often have people going and doing either management, or then they go and do something quite different entirely. So our students go to many universities in the US, in Europe, in England to do their to their higher education. I do know that students who do the BFA degrees go for further specialization in a particular aspect of either animation or film or art. And I'm sure, Jacob, would you like to talk about the design?
A lot of our students go in for, I would say that if you're just learning more design, there are avenues in India as well. But very often our students go to add on other skills, like get a design-based MBA, for example, or a creative industries masters, or design innovation masters. I must say that many of these courses are offered at Srishti anyway. But yes, a lot of students do go abroad. And I just want to add here that, some years ago, we were offering a diploma. And even then our students many of our students would get admission in colleges abroad, and are based on their portfolio evaluations. And they were always considered, they would get the equivalence of a undergraduate degree abroad. So, I mean, going abroad has not been new. It was also happening before we became part of the university system and were offering our own diplomas.
Come to the BWalk program at the digital media production space. We have a specific pathway for game design. And we have some fabulous faculty who will bridge the gap. If you're interested in board games and want to transition to digital gaming, we have some really, really competent, fun faculties who will help you make that transition as well. If you're talking about playing games of the social kind, then we won't be able to answer that one. But yeah, gaming is something that we train you specifically for at the BWalk program. I think Jacob answered that question in his introduction. Design is always future facing. Everything we offer is the next big thing. Otherwise, we wouldn't be offering it. It's a simple one to take, but do we want to have a more nuanced?
Yeah, I could just add that, in terms of that there is what is in demand and there is what is needed. And what is needed is really about some of the big crises facing humanity. So when you look at circularity, sustainable design for sustainability, design for circular systems, design for equity, and so on, social design, this is quite hot right now. And I think it's an area that's going to keep growing. Almost every company is now looking at how their companies can become more and more sustainable, and not just have a zero footprint, but actually have a positive carbon footprint where they're removing carbon and pollutants from the atmosphere. So that's one. The other is what I think Amitabh was talking about, which is, with 5G coming in and these new communication technologies coming in, all that work around it, whether it's 3D modeling, whether it is working with big data, IoT, all of that, that's another big area. So creative coding, for one, those fields, anything to do with computers and the digital world, of course, has a big future. But don't forget that some of the other things which are not so technology oriented are also things that are very much needed in tomorrow's world.
Yeah, to add to that, go ahead, Swati.
Sure.
Go ahead.
No, please. Go ahead, Mahesh.
Mahesh, you haven't spoken.
Very quickly, if I could add to that, I recently just finished a course for the in the 4-year degree space called Ethical Dilemmas, Engagement and Decision Making, which basically looked at how the role of the designer in the world today and the future. So the designer is not, the earlier the designer is somebody who made things, who made it, made a brochure, a website, or a product. Now the role of the designer is far wider. So that's what it explored. Keeping the base as, there's a great design thinker called Arturo Escobar, his book called Pluriverse. And because within our world, there are many worlds reside within our world. So a designer has to look at and design for all these different worlds. So that was a very interesting research-oriented unit studio that students enjoyed quite a bit. So what I'm saying is, as Jacob also said, there are many new areas emerging for designers now. So I think the trend is going to keep changing and evolving and widening over the next few years. I mean, I'm not talking about a long future, but in a very short, maybe next year or the year after kind of thing. Yeah, Swati.
Yeah, I just want to say that, yes, there are areas that are sort of futuristic in the sense that they are on the brink of taking off, so to speak. But let's not forget that there are also practices of art and design that are perennial and that are timeless and that are never really going to end. For instance, storytelling and the many ways in which storytelling can be used for responsible communication, which is also very much a need of the hour. As Jacob said, there are also needs that our society has, and responsible communication is one of them. So there are also these practices that are perennial, that never really ever go out of fashion. So let's also keep those in mind.
Mahesh, you want to answer that? The next round, when is the next round opening, and what is the exam, and whether you can prepare for it?
I think my other colleagues will correct me. There's no, you really don't have to prepare for a Srishti entrance exam, because as Amitabh, I think, mentioned earlier, it kind of looks at your aptitude and who you are. You have to be you. So I guess that's what it is. And secondly, Bachelor of Design. We have few of the Bachelor of Design courses open for admission right now. The second round is closing on 26th. I think in creative education is open in Bachelor of Design. So is creative and applied computation and business service and systems design. We have the filmmaking course open in the BFA program, and as well as creative writing. So these are the programs that are open for admissions in the 4-year degree program. All 3-year degree program BWOC are open. The last date for admission is, for application for round 2 is 26th of May. So please go to our website. And if you need any more information, you can request a call back from the concerned faculty. Somebody will call you and guide you.
Brilliant. Thank you, Mahesh.
If I could just add to that, please don't go to a coaching class.
Yes.
The best preparation you can do is have a good night's sleep before you come for before you do your exam, the night before the exam. Get a good night's sleep. I think that's all that you need to prepare with.
Maybe a nice breakfast as well, perhaps. But that's about it.
Sounds very, very good, actually. I wish all entrance exams would be like that. I think we're at the end of the question rounds that we have received from everyone. Thank you so much for giving us all those inputs and insights into what design is all about.